Quick question. If you didn't wake up tomorrow, who decides what happens to your kids, your house, the money sitting in your checking account? It's not you. 56% of American adults already handed that decision to a stranger in a black robe and don't even know it.
From Trek for Wealth, this is the podcast. I'm Avery.
I'm Grant, and today, the paperwork nobody wants to do, and the mutual fund salesman who picked a fight with every lawyer in America to make sure you could do it without one.
So estate planning. I feel like the second you hear that phrase, my brain just shuts the tab.
Right, because it sounds like a rich person problem. Trusts, mansions, yachts you're dividing up between 3 ex-wives.
Exactly. Not, I'm 34, I have a Roth IRA and a dog. And I think that's the actual trap. The word estate makes it sound like it doesn't apply to you, right up until the day it very much does.
Which is exactly the myth we're taking apart today. Because the story of how ordinary Americans even got the tools to do this at all starts with a guy the entire legal profession tried to shut down.
Okay, I'm listening. Let's get into it.
1965, Norman Dacey, Connecticut. Not a lawyer, a mutual fund salesman.
Okay, that's already an unusual main character for a legal history.
He'd spent years watching regular families get dragged through probate court after a death. Months of delay, thousands of dollars in fees, total strangers deciding who got grandma's house. He got mad enough to write a book about it.
What kind of book?
How to Avoid Probate. It literally had tear-out legal forms bound into the back. You could rip out a page, fill in the blanks, and build your own living trust. No lawyer required.
Wait, that's allowed?
The bar associations didn't think so. Connecticut charged him with practicing law without a license. Then the New York County Lawyers Association sued him too.
And?
He won. All the way up. The U.S. Supreme Court let the ruling in his favor stand in 1967. The book sold over 2 million copies.
So he basically broke the monopoly on who's allowed to help you plan for your own death. And it's the same shape as half the stories we've told on this show. Ted Benna finding the 401k loophole, the accountant who first sketched out the HSA. Somebody outside the system finds the gap nobody official wants to close.
Except this one's messier than those. Dacey was also selling mutual funds through the very trusts he was teaching people to build. 6% commission tucked right into the paperwork. So it wasn't purely a public service. It was a guy who found a genuine injustice and also found a way to profit from fixing it.
So which is it, reformer or salesman?
Both. That's the uncomfortable answer. And honestly, that tension is why the history of the living trust is really the history of a fight over who gets to profit from your family's grief. The lawyers who ran probate for a fee, or the salesman who said he could skip it, also for a fee.
Sounds familiar. And 60 years later, the tools themselves are basically free. Online will services, state bar templates, $20 legal form software.
Right. Cheap, easy to find, and somehow we still don't use them.
Okay, how bad is don't use them exactly?
56% of U.S. adults, this year's number, have 0. Not one. No will, no trust, no medical power of attorney, no financial power of attorney, no HIPAA authorization. The 5 basics. 0.
And it's not the 20-somethings you'd expect. Gen X, the generation juggling aging parents, teenage kids, and their own retirement all at once, actually has the worst numbers of any age group. 62% of them have nothing in place, worse than Gen Z. And 42% of all Americans say flat out they wouldn't know what to do if a family member died today.
So here's what actually happens if you die without one. The state writes a will for you. It's called intestacy. Every state runs a formula, usually spouse first, then kids, then parents, and then it gets weird. And that formula does not know your family. It doesn't know you were estranged from your brother, or that your stepdaughter is really your daughter, or that you wanted your neighbor to take the dog.
And if there are young kids at home, it's worse than weird.
It is. Without a will naming a guardian, a judge decides who raises your children. Not you. A judge working off state law and whatever the surviving relatives argue about in a courtroom.
So the court doesn't ask what you wanted. It just runs the formula on the people you loved most.
And that formula runs through probate court, which this year costs the average family somewhere between 3 and 8% of the whole estate and takes 9 to 18 months to close.
On a $500,000 estate, that's $15,000 to $40,000 in fees before a single dollar reaches your kids. For paperwork that could have taken an afternoon. Okay, but isn't this also a tax story? Every time I actually hear estate planning on the news, it's about some huge new exemption number, not a will.
It is, and that's exactly where the myth does damage. This year, thanks to a permanent change passed last year, the federal estate tax exemption is $15 million per person, $30 million for a married couple.
15 million?
Which means the federal estate tax, the one people picture the second they hear estate planning, applies to roughly one estate in 1,000, maybe fewer.
So almost nobody actually owes it. But there's still a real fight happening over whether 15 million is the right number.
There is, and both sides deserve a fair hearing. Supporters say a high exemption protects family farms and small businesses from being forced to liquidate just to cover a tax bill the moment the owner dies. That was always the original justification.
Critics would say a permanent 15 million exemption mostly benefits a small number of very wealthy families, adds to the deficit, and went far higher than it needed to in order to solve that family farm problem in the first place. Both of those can be true at once, and either way, that entire fight is basically irrelevant to the 56% we started with.
Completely irrelevant. That's the trick the word estate plays on people. You hear estate tax and assume the whole topic is for the ultra-rich, so you skip the one page of it that was always about you. The will, the power of attorney, who takes the kids.
One more gut punch before we get to moves. Probate isn't just slow and expensive, it's public. The filings, the home value, any fight over who gets what. Anyone can walk into that courthouse and pull the file.
An estranged relative, a nosy neighbor, a reporter, doesn't matter. Once it's in probate, it's a public record. A living trust is one of the only tools that keeps that whole process private.
And one more piece nobody in 1965 was worrying about: digital assets. Who actually gets into your phone?
Good catch. Photos, crypto wallets, logins to accounts holding real money. None of that transfers automatically, and half of it locks forever if nobody has the password. It's the modern version of grandma's house sitting in probate limbo.
Okay, so where do we actually start?
5 moves. Grant leads, Avery adds. 1. Get the 4 free or cheap documents this month: a will, a financial power of attorney, a healthcare power of attorney, and a HIPAA authorization. Most states have approved forms online for free or under $100 total.
2. And this one's sneaky. Check your beneficiary designations on your 401k, IRA, and life insurance today. Those override whatever your will says. People update the will and completely forget the 401k still lists an X.
3. If you have minor kids, name a guardian in writing today, not someday. That single sentence is the difference between you choosing and a judge choosing.
4. If you own a home or your situation is more complicated than one house, one 401k, look at a revocable living trust, the exact tool Dacey fought for, to skip probate's 9 to 18 months and 3 to 8% entirely.
5. Build a simple, password-protected list of your digital accounts and where the paper documents live. Then, actually tell your family it exists. 42% of us wouldn't know what to do. Don't let that be your family.
None of that requires a law degree, honestly. It's an afternoon, maybe a weekend if you're being thorough.
Norman Dacey wasn't a saint. He made money off the very fix he was selling. But 60 years later, the forms he fought for are sitting on a state website, free, waiting for you to fill them out on a Tuesday night. Preparing without predicting. Always.
That's Trek for Wealth. Keep trekking.